Have you ever woken up one morning, looked in the mirror, and thought, when did I start living for everyone else but me? It's not about wrinkles or gray hair, it's about that feeling deep inside that somehow, somewhere, you stopped being the main character in your own story. That was me not too long ago. 68 years old, healthy enough, surrounded by family and friends, but something just felt heavy. Not physically, emotionally. I realized that every decision I made, from what I wore to what I ate, even how I spent my weekends, was guided by what I thought other people expected of me. My children, my neighbors, even strangers on Facebook. I was so busy trying to be liked, respected, understood, or admired that I forgot how to simply be myself. The funny thing is, it didn't happen all at once. It crept in slowly, like dust gathering in the corners of a room you stopped noticing. I started saying yes when I wanted to say no. I'd force a smile when I didn't feel like it, just to avoid seeming rude. I'd pretend I was fine, even on the days I felt lonely or tired or disappointed. And every time I did that, a tiny part of me dimmed. One day, after yet another family dinner where I sat quietly while everyone else talked over me, I came home, sat down, and asked myself out loud, when did I stop being me? That question changed everything. Because the truth is, I had spent most of my life doing one thing that was silently stealing my happiness, trying to please everyone. I thought being kind meant always saying yes. I thought keeping the peace meant keeping quiet. I thought love meant putting everyone's needs before my own. But what I didn't realize was that in doing so, I was slowly losing myself. When you hit your 60s or 70s, people often talk about slowing down, taking it easy, enjoying retirement. But no one talks about the invisible weight that comes with years of people-pleasing. The fear of disappointing someone. The guilt of saying no. The worry that if you finally speak your truth, you might upset the balance of your relationships. I used to believe that being a good person meant sacrificing my own needs. That if I just kept everyone else happy, I'd feel happy too. But here's the thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't keep giving and giving when you've forgotten how to receive, how to rest, how to simply say, this is what I want. I remember the first time I tried to stop. My daughter asked me to watch her kids on a Saturday. I love my grandkids, don't get me wrong, but I had already planned a day to myself. I hesitated. I almost said yes, out of habit. Then I took a deep breath and said, sweetheart, I can't today. I've made other plans. She was surprised, maybe even a little disappointed. But do you know what happened next? Nothing. The world didn't collapse. My daughter didn't stop loving me. The sky didn't fall. Instead, I spent that Saturday morning sitting by the lake with a cup of coffee, reading my favorite book, and feeling the breeze on my face. I remember smiling for no reason. It was the first time in a long while I felt truly alive, not as a mother, not as a grandmother, not as a neighbor, just as me. And that's when I understood, freedom doesn't come from what you have, or where you go, or how many people love you. Freedom comes when you stop needing everyone's approval. It's funny, at 68, I thought I'd already learned all of life's big lessons. But the truth is, we keep learning until the day we stop breathing. And sometimes the biggest lesson of all is learning to let go of what no longer serves us, even if that means letting go of who we thought we had to be. When you stop trying to please everyone, you begin to rediscover parts of yourself you'd forgotten. The joy of saying no without guilt. The peace of sitting quietly without feeling you need to explain yourself. The strength that comes from knowing you are enough, exactly as you are. For so many years, I thought saying no was selfish. But now I realize it's one of the most loving things you can do, for yourself and for others. When you take care of your own energy, your own peace, you show up as a better version of yourself in every relationship. It's like oxygen masks on an airplane, they always tell you to put yours on first before helping others. Because if you can't breathe, you can't help anyone. Life works the same way. Once I stopped trying to please everyone, something magical happened. I started to attract people who respected my boundaries. Conversations felt lighter. My days felt freer. And most of all, I felt a quiet kind of happiness that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. You might be thinking, that's easier said than done. And you're right, it takes practice. At first, you might feel guilty. You might worry what people will think. But every time you honor your own needs, you're teaching yourself and others that your time, energy, and peace matter too. Some people might not like it. They might call you distant or stubborn. But that's okay. Because the people who truly love you will understand. They'll see that your no isn't rejection, it's respect. Respect for your boundaries, your energy, and your well-being. And slowly, that feeling of guilt begins to fade. In its place, you find peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't depend on anyone's mood or opinion. The kind that lets you wake up, look in the mirror, and finally say, I feel free. It's not about becoming selfish. It's about finally giving yourself permission to live as you. To choose how you spend your time, who you spend it with, and what kind of energy you allow into your life. Because at this stage of life, peace is priceless, and freedom begins the moment you stop apologizing for wanting it. If you're still watching and feel that these insights are meaningful, please type number 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to do so, and don't forget to turn on the bell, so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos designed to uplift, inform, and inspire. Your support truly means a lot. It's what keeps us going and allows us to continue sharing thoughtful, helpful content just for you. Now, let's continue this journey together. When I first stopped trying to please everyone, it wasn't easy. In fact, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable, like wearing a brand new pair of shoes that hadn't been broken in yet. For decades, I had built my life around what others needed from me. It was my way of showing love, my way of feeling useful. So when I finally started saying no, I didn't know what to do with all that new space in my life. It felt quiet, too quiet. But here's the beautiful part, in that silence, I began to hear my own voice again. For the first time in years, I could actually ask myself, what do I want? What do I need? What makes me happy? And those questions opened a door I didn't even know was still there. I started with small things. I stopped answering the phone every single time it rang. I stopped saying yes to every invitation, every favor, every "can you just help me for a minute" request. Instead, I paused. I asked myself, do I really want to do this? Or am I just afraid of disappointing someone? And if the answer was the latter, I gave myself permission to decline, kindly, but firmly. It was shocking how powerful that one act could be. The more I said no to things that drained me, the more energy I had for things that filled me up. I started walking again, not because I should, but because I wanted to. I began cooking meals that made me feel good instead of just cooking what others liked. I even joined a local painting class, something I'd always dreamed of doing but kept putting off because it felt selfish. And as I painted that first stroke on a blank canvas, I realized something profound. Freedom doesn't just come from what you stop doing. It also comes from what you start allowing yourself to do. For years, I had believed that being busy and available made me valuable. That my worth came from how much I could give, do, or fix for others. But when you're always running around trying to meet everyone else's expectations, you forget how to meet your own. You forget that simply existing as your authentic self is already enough. One morning, I was sitting on my porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunrise. It was quiet, peaceful, and I remember thinking, why did I deny myself moments like this for so long? I used to think I needed to earn rest, to deserve peace. But peace isn't something you earn, it's something you allow. And allowing peace into your life begins with one simple choice, to stop apologizing for it. When I finally stopped apologizing for saying no, I noticed people's reactions started to change. At first, some didn't understand. They'd say things like, "You've changed," or "You're not as available as you used to be." But as time went on, something surprising happened. They began to respect my boundaries. My relationships didn't fall apart, they got stronger. There was more honesty, more balance, more mutual respect. And then I noticed another shift. The guilt I used to feel started to turn into pride. Every time I honored my own needs, I felt a little lighter. Every time I chose myself, I felt a little stronger. It wasn't arrogance. It was self-respect. There's a certain kind of wisdom that comes with age, but it only reveals itself when you stop trying to be everything for everyone. Because when you're constantly trying to prove your worth, you never get the chance to experience it. And trust me, when you finally do, it's the most freeing feeling in the world. I also started to notice how much of my people-pleasing had come from fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as difficult. But what I didn't realize back then was that by trying so hard to be liked, I was rejecting myself. I was saying, my feelings don't matter as much as yours. And over time, that's a painful message to live by. Breaking that pattern wasn't about becoming rebellious or careless. It was about learning to trust myself again. To believe that my voice, my feelings, and my choices were valid, even if they didn't please everyone around me. And once I started doing that, my entire world shifted. I began to enjoy solitude, not as loneliness, but as liberation. I'd go for long walks without needing to check my phone. I'd sit quietly in the garden, listening to the sound of the wind. And sometimes, I'd smile just because I could. There's something magical about realizing that you don't need constant approval to feel good about yourself. You stop chasing external validation and start finding it within. That's when you truly begin to live, not for others, but for yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It doesn't mean you become selfish or cold. In fact, the opposite happens. When you're grounded in your own peace, you can love more genuinely, without resentment, without exhaustion. You give because you want to, not because you have to. And that difference changes everything. I remember one day, my friend Linda, she's about my age, told me, "You seem different lately. Happier. Lighter." And I laughed and said, "That's because I stopped trying to make everyone else happy." She looked at me for a long moment and said, "I wish I could do that." And I told her the same thing I'll tell you, you can. It doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with one small act of courage, to say no when you need to rest when you're tired, to speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Because at this stage in life, our time is too precious to waste on pretending. We've spent decades caring for others, raising families, supporting friends, and fulfilling responsibilities. Now it's time to care for ourselves with the same love and devotion we've given everyone else. It's time to stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. To choose joy, not obligation. To choose peace, not guilt. To choose authenticity over approval. And once you make that choice, you'll notice that life begins to open up again, like a flower that's been waiting for the sun. You'll start to see beauty in the simplest things. You'll start to feel excitement about small moments. You'll remember what it feels like to be fully alive. That's the real gift of letting go. It's not just freedom from others' expectations. It's freedom to be yourself again. As I look back now, I realize that letting go of the need to please everyone wasn't just about changing my habits, it was about reclaiming my life. For years, I thought freedom was something that came from circumstances, retirement, financial stability, fewer responsibilities. But real freedom isn't about what happens around you. It's about what happens inside you. Once I stopped trying to meet everyone else's expectations, I finally had the time and space to rediscover who I truly was. And at first, that was a little scary. I had spent so many years being someone's mother, someone's partner, someone's friend, that I'd almost forgotten what it meant to just be me. Who was I when no one needed anything from me? So, I started exploring that question. I began each morning by asking myself, what would make today feel good? Not what should I do, or what do others expect? But simply, what would bring me joy right now? Some days it was as simple as taking a slow walk through the park. Other days, it was sitting with a good book, letting the world go quiet for a while. What I discovered was this: happiness doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters. And for me, what mattered most was presence, being truly here, in this moment, instead of rushing through it to meet some invisible standard of worthiness. You see, when you stop living for others' approval, life slows down. You start noticing small, beautiful details you used to overlook, the way sunlight filters through your curtains in the morning, the smell of coffee, the laughter of a grandchild, the sound of rain tapping against your window. It's as if the whole world comes back into color. Of course, not everyone understands this change right away. Some people might think you've become distant or less involved. But that's okay. You're not pulling away from them, you're simply returning to yourself. And those who truly care about you will come to see that this version of you, calmer, happier, more grounded, is the best gift you could ever give them. Because when you're at peace, you bring peace into your relationships too. There's less resentment, less exhaustion, less pretending. You can laugh more easily, listen more deeply, and love more freely. I'll be honest, there are still moments when that old voice in my head tries to creep back in. It whispers, you should be doing more, or you're being selfish. But now, I know how to answer it. I take a breath and remind myself, no, I'm not being selfish. I'm being self-respecting. That one shift, from guilt to gratitude, changes everything. When you start respecting your own needs, something beautiful happens. You begin to attract experiences and people that align with that same energy. Instead of being drawn into drama or exhaustion, you find yourself surrounded by calm, kind, supportive connections. You laugh more. You rest better. You stop chasing love and start living in it. And perhaps the most amazing thing of all? You realize that happiness doesn't depend on anyone else changing. It begins the moment you decide to change. I remember one afternoon, I was sitting by the window, sipping tea, and watching a few birds hop across the lawn. The thought came to me, this is what freedom feels like. Not needing to be anywhere, not needing to be anyone else. Just being present. Just being enough. It made me realize how much time we waste trying to be perfect, the perfect parent, the perfect friend, the perfect version of ourselves that never actually exists. But perfection is a trap. It keeps us running on a treadmill that never stops. And when we finally step off, we discover that the ground beneath our feet was always solid, we just never took the time to feel it. If there's one thing I've learned at this stage in life, it's that peace is not found in control, it's found in surrender. When we stop forcing life to be a certain way, we start allowing it to be what it is. And in that acceptance, we find joy. So, if you've spent your life worrying about everyone else, I want you to hear this clearly, it's not too late to start living for yourself. You haven't missed your chance. You can begin today, right now, by giving yourself permission to stop over-explaining, stop apologizing, stop carrying everyone else's burdens. You can begin by taking one deep breath and reminding yourself that your happiness matters. Your peace matters. You matter. Maybe that means saying no to something that doesn't feel right. Maybe it means spending a quiet day alone without guilt. Maybe it's calling a friend just to laugh about something silly. Whatever it looks like for you, let it be enough. Because that's what freedom truly is, the ability to live in alignment with your own truth. And when you do, you'll find that life after 60 or 70 or even 80 isn't about slowing down. It's about waking up. It's about realizing that you're not here to please the world. You're here to experience it, fully, deeply, joyfully. So, my friend, if you've been holding on to guilt, expectations, or the need for approval, let it go. Not because it's easy, but because you deserve peace. You've earned the right to live on your own terms. And the moment you stop chasing validation, you'll discover something extraordinary. The freedom you've been searching for was never out there. It was inside you all along. So take that deep breath. Smile. Sit in the quiet for a while. Feel the weight lift off your shoulders. You've done enough, you are enough, and now, it's your time to be free. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this message spoke to your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories, reflections, and gentle reminders that happiness doesn't have an age limit. Here's to living your best, most peaceful, most authentic life, because you deserve nothing less.